perfect on my end. It's perfect on my end every time. But it's delayed on yours.
It's gotta be a lag, I guess. I don't know.
It looks so bad on yours every time. Every time I'm like, yes, it's perfect. And you're like, ooh. All right, welcome back to the Crowd Chatter Podcast, everyone. That's Mitch. I'm Jacob. Just us two again today, going for the AFC North now. I missed the end of the NFC North, which apparently was just Calvin ranting for 15 minutes about the Lions, which we all knew was going to happen with how much film study he's probably done specifically on the Lions.
Which is out now, so go check out that NFC North video. It'll be in top right.
And now we go to, in my opinion, a little bit less interesting of a division. Maybe a little bit homerish because I really like the NFC North. Just a bunch of teams that I really don't care that much about. And then the Bengals, who will probably somehow win the division again. Just because Joe Burrow's that guy. Even though they'll probably win the division and have the first playoff game be the ugliest game you've ever watched. How do they do that? How do they just have like the ugliest game you've ever watched and then they'll just blow a good team out in the second game?
Really, I do not know. That's the Bengal way, I guess.
They went from almost losing to Tyler Huntley to blowing out the Bills.
Yeah, it don't make much sense.
That's crazy.
Either.
No. All right, we are going to start from the bottom of the win total rack. There are two teams tied. We are going to start with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have a win total of 8.5. Big additions in the offseason just from the draft. I don't know many of the offseason acquisitions, but as usual, the Steelers drafted well. Broderick Jones is the offensive tackle, is their first round pick, bringing in Joey Porter Jr., son of Joey Porter, who also played for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's a huge pickup. Darnell Washington in the third round. I mean, obviously they had a good draft. They're going to start their season in not Heinz Field anymore. What is it now?
Well, I ain't calling it what it is now, but Acrisure
It's Heinz
Stadium.
Field.
It's Heinz Field. It's Heinz Field.
It's Heinz Field. Just like Syracuse is still the Carrier Dome, not the JMA Wireless Dome.
No.
Anyway,
no one's going to call it that.
Home. No. They start at home versus the 49ers and the Browns before going on the road to play the Raiders and Texans. Two pretty winnable road games, if you ask me. Before coming home against arch rival Ravens. Going on the road to Los Angeles to play the Rams before a 3-game homestand against the Jaguars, Titans, and Packers. Then they go on the road to two divisional opponents, to the Browns and the Bengals, who they will somehow beat, even though they have no right doing so. Then they will have the Cardinals and Patriots at home. One of those is definitely an easy win. Then they will go on the road to Indianapolis to play the Colts before hosting the Bengals in the home finale, before going on the road to finish the season at Seattle and against their arch rival Baltimore. Do we think they go over the win total? Do we think Tomlin do we think Mike Tomlin keeps his over 500 streak going?
Absolutely. He
somehow,
some way, he figured out a way to do it last year. He'll figure out a way to do it again. Honestly, I mean, I don't understand how this dude continues to make this happen. I don't know, because you look at the Steelers team, and it's just a bunch of misfit pieces. Now, they do have some younger guys, like, George Pickens looks like a budding star in the receiving core. Darnell Washington is a fantastic tight end. Obviously, he dropped because of health concerns, but if that doesn't end up being an issue, then they're going to have a nasty 1-2 punch at tight end of Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington. I'm telling y'all, if Darnell Washington ends up, just being good for the Steelers, they're gonna have one of the nastiest tight end groups in all of the NFL.
And the way the Steelers play, I bet you they would love to run nothing more than cut out one wide receiver and run two tight end sets all the
time. they would love that. And
you've got one wide receiver, you've got two running backs, and you got two tight ends, and you got Kenny Pickett just under center. And of course, this team is always going to have a nasty defense. If for them winning games, they would love to win a game 2-0, just like the good old days. They like to say. They have one of the best defenses out there as usual, and their offense seems to be getting, slightly better. The most of it relies on the second year development of Kenny Pickett, who was kind of thrown into the fire once they realized, maybe we shouldn't be starting Mitch Trubisky in the year 2022. Maybe that is not a good idea to
Yeah,
start the
maybe that
MVP.
should not be what we do.
So they had to put him in, and he had some high moments, had some low moments, but I mean, Steelers offense has never been anything to write home about. As long as Kenny Pickett can, develop into more of the game manager style with a little bit of running, I think he'll be just fine. But he's definitely got some people to throw to, definitely got some, weapons in the backfield. It's all about, can they actually put points on the board? That's the big thing. And can they limit turnovers? And limit
Yeah.
stupid plays. But whoever they got rid of, what was his name that they got rid of that was stupid? They sent him to the Bears.
Oh, Chase
What was his
Claypool.
name? Claypool? The guy who danced on fourth down or
Oh
something.
yeah, when he got a first down and just started dancing instead of hurrying and getting the ball to the.
Forgot it. Forgot it wasn't Forgot it wasn't college. That the time clock doesn't stop on first down.
Yeah, that was bad. But
But I mean,
go ahead.
yeah, continue. No, continue. I'm just gonna look at look over their schedule again.
Oh, but yeah, I totally agree with you, and I think that really this entire season for the Steelers is going to be very dependent on the development of Kenny Pickett, how he does in Pittsburgh. Now, another big thing is going to be the offensive line because that was also obviously a massive issue for the Steelers last year was protection. And, well, they went and got their guy. They got Broderick Jones, so a fantastic draft pick by the Steelers, and they made sure to jump ahead of the Jets, who don't have any offensive line either, and have a 40-year-old at quarterback to block for. So, an awesome move by the Steelers to move up in the draft, jump ahead of the Jets, and go get the last tackle available. That was a fantastic move by Pittsburgh to go and get their guy. And then they ended up still with Joey Porter Jr. at corner. And, they ended up getting Darnell Washington, too, which I think could be a big steal. But, like you said, the defense is pretty much the same. I mean, they're going to have TJ Watt back, healthy. And if he stays healthy, obviously he's one of the best players there is on defense. They're going to have
One of the
Minka
best players in
Fitzpatrick.
general.
Oh,
One
yeah.
of the best players in general. That
Yeah.
guy's a beast.
And they're going to have. Jeez. They're going to have
Minka
Minka
Fitzpatrick.
Fitzpatrick back. They're going to have. They're going to have Cameron Hayward. They're going to have. There's talent up the yin yang on the defensive end. They actually have Patrick Peterson now on the defense, so he's a corner for them
Oh,
now.
that
So
helps a little bit, just a little bit.
yeah,
Just a tiny, just a tiny acquisition.
yeah, very very small. But I think for the Steelers, it's never really been a question of the defense because the defense is always held up for this team, and it's always been a question of what will the offense look like? How good will the offense be? What will the offense do for them? And you look at their offense; they still have George, like I said, George Pickens, big time rookie from last year, looked fantastic for the Steelers last year, making all kinds of different plays. Of course, they also got in the trade from the Rams, Allen Robinson, who, well, he hasn't looked good since the Bears days. Actually, not even, I'm sorry, not the Bears days. He hasn't looked good since the Jacksonville Jaguar days, which was like 5 years ago. So we'll see if Robinson can find himself once again in Pittsburgh. But of course, they have a good running back in Najee Harris too. So I definitely think the Steelers are going to go 9-8 at least. But
Hmm.
it's really going to be well, if they really want to get somewhere, it's going to depend on Kenny Pickett at quarterback and the offense and what it's able to do. Because I think the defense is gonna definitely hold up its part, and we'll have to see how the offense responds.
Now, here's a question I'm going to start throwing out for every single team, and some of these teams it's going to be much harder than the others. What would it take for the Steelers to win the Super Bowl this year? As unlikely as it is, what would have to happen? I'm going to ask this for every single team, and you can imagine some of these teams are going to be much harder than the others. Cardinals.
Texans. Okay. But yeah, for the Steelers, for them to end up winning the Super Bowl, they're gonna. I mean, the defense needs to be a top unit, of which it very much could be. They could have a top unit on the defensive end, but their offense needs to also be a top unit. Well, not top unit, but
Yeah.
their offense needs to score more than like 20 points a game or 17. You know.
TJ Watt needs to be DPOY. Najee Harris has to have a huge year, which opens up the
Kenny Pickett needs to
passing
explode
game.
in year 2.
I don't even think he needs to explode. I think if Najee Harris is doing enough offensively in the running game, it'll open up just enough for Kenny Pickett to make what he needs to make. Even if he's not a superstar, make the throws he needs to, and especially if Harris is, opening that up, that's going to make it huge for him. But yeah, Kenny Pickett needs to be at least serviceable when given the opportunities to win.
Yeah, I definitely. I think. I mean, like you said, it's unlikely, but I do like the Steelers team. I think they're probably a few years away from being, a possibly a title contender. They're still very young. There's still a lot of things they need to work on. I mean, they still need more offensive line. Project Jones won't be it.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
That's gonna be the biggest thing for Pittsburgh.
And now we move to the poo-poo state of Ohio, where we go see the Cleveland Browns. Which may I say, when I went to the Comic-Con, I saw the Cleveland Browns stadium across the water, and it was just like the most depressing atmosphere I think I've ever been in. I'm not even gonna lie. Being in Cleveland, I hated being in Cleveland. That whole Joakim Noah, who wants to be in Cleveland? Quote. It's 100% right. Sorry to all you Cleveland fans out there, but I don't like your city. I don't like your city at all. It's pretty bad. Anyway, and not like Detroit's any better though. Anyway, we've got Cleveland. We've got Cleveland Browns with a win total of 8.5. Obviously, they didn't have a first or second round pick. Wow.
No, they did not, because they sold their future for Watson, and then they traded a second rounder to go and they sold their future for Watson, and then sold their second rounder to go and get Elijah Moore from the Jets.
Anyway, they got why. I was like, wow, they picked Cedric Tillman 11th overall. And then I'm like, oh no, that's the 11th pick of the third round. Cedric Tillman out of Tennessee, who was a good receiver before he got injured, was their leading receiver, and then Jalen Hyatt kind of exploded. Cam Mitchell out of Northwestern is always good, and then their hopeful quarterback development in DTR, who is okay. He's a 5th round pick, that's for sure. Better 5th round pick than spending a 5th round pick on Sean Clifford, at least. This Browns team, they start at home versus the Bengals before going on the road to take on Pittsburgh before a 3-game homestand against the Titans, Ravens, and 49ers, for a road trip to the Colts and Seahawks before hosting the Cardinals, going on the road to Baltimore for being home versus the Steelers. Then you got 2 road games against the Broncos and Rams. Then you got a 2-game homestand against the Jags and Bears before going on the road to Houston again to play the Texans, where they will be booing the crap out of Watson, rightfully so. And then you've got the New York Jets at home before going on the road to finish the season against the Bengals. I need to see...
Starting and ending the year with Cincinnati.
That's very interesting. I want to go back and see 2022 schedule. I want to go back and see, once Deshaun Watson came back, how many games did they actually win? No, I don't want their 2023 schedule. I want their 20. Okay, so Deshaun Watson came back against the Houston game.
Yeah, I think that was
One,
week
two.
12. I want to say. I think it was
Okay, so
11
they
games he
went
was suspended.
they went 3-3. Um, they went 3-3 with Watson, but they really did not look pretty in any of those games, and they beat Baltimore and Washington and Houston. That's
A Ravens
yeah,
team
that's not
without Lamar Jackson, by the way.
exactly. That's not impressive. Need I remind you, this is also the team that somehow blew a 2-possession lead against the New York Jets with like a minute, like 2 minutes remaining somehow. That was probably. I'm sorry to bring that back up, but that was probably the biggest collapse. This Browns team. So I liked when the Browns were good and jumping back up. I don't like the Browns anymore, mainly because of Deshaun Watson. Who is the? I know we're probably repeating the same thing, but who is the person in the front office who said, "Huh, this guy did a bunch of bad things and is suspended for a while. Let's pay the crap out of him and trade a bunch of picks in the
And
process."
sell our future for him. Houston just said, okay, sure, go ahead. You have fun. Not our problem anymore. um, but really for Cleveland, I mean, this team. I mean, like Stravinsky said. I mean, they were trending in the right direction when they had when before they went and got Watson, they had Baker Mayfield, and yeah, sure, he certainly had his ups and downs, and mostly downs, but Baker Mayfield, he got him to a playoff game for the first time in like almost 2 decades. And then they proceed to alienate him by going for a guy who hasn't played a football game in 3 years because he's done all this nonsense with massage therapists. Like, look, I don't look. This is like one on one with in the NFL. You don't trade you don't go for a dude who's a PR nightmare, and that's exactly what Watson was. And instead, the Browns, for whatever reason, were like, yeah, sure, this guy was good like 5 years ago. He hasn't played since then, but hey, we'll pay him all the money he wants and give Houston all the draft picks they want for him, and yeah, let's see how it goes. They legit should have learned from the last one, that they should have learned from the last trade that you don't that because the last trade that they did with Houston, I'm pretty sure went miserably because I think they traded with Houston and they ended up getting what's his name from Brock Osweiler. I think they traded for him. Or no, was that no? I don't think. Anyways, um, this Browns team is just a mess. On the offensive end, Elijah Moore, they traded, like I said, they traded a second round pick, and I think they even a third, and they got like a third back or something. But overall, it's just really stupid. It's like Elijah Moore threw fits in New York. Yeah, sure, he got a little buried on the depth chart because there's like 5 other guys in front of him, but you really want that nightmare on your team? And then you drafted Cedric Tillman, so they're trying to get somebody else behind Amari Cooper, which was another issue for Cleveland last year, was they really didn't have much of anybody behind Amari Cooper. I mean, Donovan Peoples DPJ looked okay, but that's not a number 2 option. Look, he was great at Michigan, but DPJ is not a number 2 option, and he was serviceable for when he was in there, but he's not good enough. But the Browns are just they're a bit of a mess on defense. They have was it Zach or I don't know, what is it? I'm forgetting his name from the Vikings. Zadarius Smith. There we go. They traded for Zadarius Smith. They signed all kinds of different defensive guys. But once again, I think this actually is pretty similar to the Steelers, in which this is all going to depend on the offense again. I mean, the defense for Cleveland, I mean, and they've had their fair share of issues staying healthy. Cleveland's defense has had a lot of health issues and has lost a lot of guys due to injury. But once again, I mean, they got great defensive players. They got plenty of guys that they can depend on defense. And then you go to the offense, and the offensive line is okay. It's a bit of a mess in receiving core, as I had mentioned earlier, as they have Elijah Moore, DPJ, now Cedric Tillman, as they drafted him, as Serbenski mentioned, and Amari Cooper, number one option. Of course, they still have Nick Chubb at running back, but this is all going to depend on if Watson can finally look like. I mean, if he looks like Watson in Houston, yeah, Cleveland could be very good. But you gotta understand, this guy hadn't played in 3 years until last year, and shocker, since he hasn't played in 3 years, he didn't even look very good. When you don't play football for 3 years and you're not on a field, yeah, surprise, it's not going to go very well, and it did not. But it's really going to depend once again on the offense, I think, for Cleveland. I think the defense, if it stays healthy, will be very good, but it's going to require an offensive, overhaul for this team to really get very far.
Yeah, Deshaun, for them to win the Super Bowl, Deshaun Watson is going to have to channel his Clemson days. Not even his Houston days, channel his Clemson days and just go berserk.
Yeah.
And actually look like the quarterback that is being paid $240 million. Yeah, I was trying to plug in my headphones to charge and I accidentally unplugged my computer in the process, so I'm back. Wrong plug. I'm like, oh yeah, this plug's just going to unturn off my monitor. Nope, I grabbed the wrong one. Anyway, that's it. I don't want to spend any more time on this team. I don't like this team at all. I also have been instilled a hatred of the Browns and the Ravens and the Bengals because of my dad. Which, funnily enough, because my dad's a huge Steelers fan, which, funnily enough, my father-in-law, right, the father of the woman that I married, is also a huge Steelers fan.
Really?
What are the odds? What are the odds? Also, I don't know if I've told you this story, but the funniest thing is I was like, when we moved from Michigan, I'm like, okay, cool. I don't have to deal with any more like Michigan State. We're good. We're done. We find a church. It's a great church. Pastor's a Michigan State graduate.
Oh my gosh.
Talks about his green and white duct tape Bible all the time that he has.
Oh, jeez.
It's so funny. I'm like,
my.
all right, I get moved to a new state, and I still have a pastor who's a Michigan State fan. Anyway, we move on to the Ravens, who just paid Lamar Jackson, acquired Odell Beckham Jr., in the offseason, and got Zay Flowers out of Boston College in the first round. Yeah, so they're looking to hopefully be better this year. They got a win total of 9.5. They start the season against the Texans. I would say there's almost no better team to start with than a team who has a rookie quarterback in his first ever game at home. Man, Bryce Young has to go against the Ravens defense to start his career.
That's
I'm so sorry.
CJ Stroud.
That's CJ Stroud. Bryce Stroud. Bryce Young's with the Panthers. I'm sorry, CJ.
Of which they're playing the Falcons to start, so Bryce Young's got a nice game to start off the year.
And then poor CJ Stroud. All right, so they start against the Texans before going on the road to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals before coming back home to play the Colts. Then they got a 3-game road trip against the Browns, Steelers, and Titans before playing host to the Detroit Lions. The 17-0 Detroit Lions, instant loss there. Before going to the desert to play the Cardinals, and then going back home to play the Seahawks, Browns, and Bengals. Going on the road to play the Chargers before playing the Rams at home. Then they finished the road season with 2 trips to the Jaguars and the 49ers before coming home to play the Dolphins and finishing against the Steelers. Their win total is 9.5. I mean, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I can see 6 to 7 like guaranteed wins and like 4 to 5 coin flips. So I could see this team definitely going over. I think the biggest thing for this team is just if you could just take like in the Madden game, if you could just take the injury slider and turn injuries off, they'd be phenomenal. But
Oh
they
yeah.
just that's the risk. You don't want to lose Lamar Jackson, but the risk of paying Lamar Jackson is he has proven time and time again he cannot stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, this team is a legit threat. But they've got to stay healthy. He's got to stay healthy, and their running back room's got to stay healthy too. I feel like the running back room
Their
last year
entire
was
team
also
has
just
to
like
stay healthy.
just eviscerated. But there's the crazy thing. Even with an eviscerated team and Tyler Huntley starting, they went 10-7 and were a goal line fumble away from potentially beating the Bengals in the first round. Like that's crazy overachievement for a team that did not have anything. And now they've overhauled their team, and if they can stay healthy, they are Super Bowl contenders. But they have to stay healthy is the big key. I mean, granted, they'll also have to get through like the Chiefs and the Bengals, but I don't see any team that like I would say for sure this team would lose to besides the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean this Ravens team, as you said, I mean they are they have all the talent in the world, and and their consistent problem continues to be that they just don't ever ever stay healthy. It seems like every year they come across they get into the season, and even before the year begins they have like 5 different injuries. I mean, what was it, 2 years ago I think they lost every single running back on their roster to torn ACLs or torn Achilles, and they are all done for the year. Like, that's insane. Lost all of them. They had to like sign 3 different running backs to fill a running room. It was that bad. I mean, it just crazy. And then the receiving room last year, they lost like 5 guys. I think at one point, it's like I don't know what in the world happened, but like it was like remember when San Fran had that like injury plague in 2020? They must have given that to Baltimore. Maybe they like traveled. I think they traveled to Baltimore actually that same year. They must have like given it to them when they were in Baltimore because it's
Yeah.
not left since then.
Well, and that would explain the 28th out of 32nd ranked passing yards. They were 28 out of 32 in passing yards, but rushing yards they were number 2. Points against they were number 3. And now points for they were 19th. But that's still a little under league average. But the passing yards gotta be slightly better in the passing game if you want to go anywhere.
Yeah, I mean that's gonna come with Lamar finally being healthy, and as long as he stays healthy. I mean, even Tyler Huntley though, that's a fine reserve. I mean, in the time of which he played, he didn't look too bad. I mean, obviously he held his own in the playoff game because he fumbled at the goal line, but I mean that's his first year starting. Yeah, he made the Pro Bowl. There's like no other quarterbacks, I guess, in the AFC, but um, I think Tyler Huntley's a fine backup for the Ravens. He's a great dude to have behind Lamar, in case something goes wrong. The running room for the Ravens is really good. The receiving core they have attempted to overhaul with grossly overpaying OBJ, who tore his ACL last year, never played, and hasn't been in the Pro Bowl in like 5 years. And then has like and then they have like 5 other players who can't stay healthy. Devin Duvernay is real. I mean, I like Devin Duvernay. Rashad Bateman doesn't ever stay healthy. I think Duvernay got hurt at some point last year too. James Brochet had to play at one point. They have
Hopefully
Tariq Black.
they're hoping
That's funny.
they're hoping they're I have not heard that name in forever. Oh my goodness. They're
That was
they're
a long
they're
time ago.
hoping.
He was at Michigan.
Oh my gosh. I remember being so like bummed when he transferred.
Yeah,
I
and
was
he went
like,
to
"Oh,
Texas. I was like,
what?"
really? Come on, man. Yeah,
Yeah, I was
that was a
like, "Oh my
sad
goodness."
day.
Wow. Wow, Tariq Black. I forgot about him. Anyway, They're hoping Zay Flowers can come in and make a big impact in year one. I think this team can definitely get to at least 10. I think this team can get to 10 wins. I mean, they got to 10 wins last year
Oh
without
yeah,
with half their team being eviscerated.
is that their over under 10.10 and a half?
No, 9.5. So they have to get.
Oh
They need to
wow,
get
yeah,
to at least 10 wins.
oh yeah, definitely over.
Yeah.
I
All right.
love
So this team,
their
this team should
team
be a little bit
overall.
easier.
Yeah, for Baltimore overall, I mean, this team is very good. It's just all going to be dependent on staying healthy. If they do, it'll be great. But they need to stay healthy, and that's the most important thing for Baltimore.
Exactly. Now for this team to make the Super Bowl, um, they all have to stay healthy. Number one,
Let's stay
injury
stay
slider
healthy.
off. Injury slider off. Easy number one. Easy number one option. Um, Number two, they need to up their passing yards to at least around middle of the pack. Like they cannot be bottom four in the league. They have to be at least around middle of the pack.
Well, I think that'll come
And
with guys being healthy. I mean, as much as OBJ hasn't been to a Pro Bowl in a while, he is still a very, very good receiver. Rashad Bateman has shown when he has been healthy that he's very good. And Zay Flowers is a good player after all as well. So I think with health that the receiving the whole passing issue, I think that'll be rectified by just health finally for a receiving core.
exactly, yeah, and I mean obviously the defense stays strong and they just don't choke in the playoffs. That's the big thing. They don't choke in the playoffs.
Yeah.
All right, and now we move on to the Cincinnati Bengals, the winners of the division for the past 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. Or did the Ravens win it 2 years ago? I don't
Two
remember.
years ago?
Well, because I think the Bengals were either like a 3 seed or a 4 seed. I don't remember if the Ravens were better than them in that year.
They've won the past two
Eh,
seasons.
okay, they did. Okay. All right, and now we go to the Bengals. In their draft, they did Miles Murphy with the first round out of Clemson. Picked up a pretty dang good cornerback, if you ask me. DJ Turner out of Michigan. You got Jordan Battle out of Alabama with the other safety. Charlie Jones, wow, wide receiver out of Purdue. That's a nice one. And the tradition for the draft night was if a team picked a Michigan player, they were likely picking a second Michigan player at some point. Same held true for the Bengals. They also picked up Brad Robbins in the sixth round.
Gotta get
That's
the
crazy.
punter.
I forgot how many Michigan players were drafted. It was like the highest in the Big Ten, which great for us. Anyway, they're going to start their season with a road trip to the Browns before taking on the Ravens and Rams. And then they go on the road to the Titans and the Cardinals before taking on the Seahawks. They go on the road to San Fran to take on the 49ers before coming home against the Bills and Texans. Then they go on the road to the Ravens before hosting the Steelers, which they'll somehow probably lose. Then they play in Jacksonville against the Jaguars, and then they play the Colts and Vikings at home. Or the Frikings, the fraudulent Vikings. I don't know what I can do about a joke for that. Before taking two tough road games against the Steelers and Chiefs. They always play the Chiefs in the regular season, which
That's one to
they've done
watch.
really
That's
they've
gonna be
done
one
really
to
well
watch
against
right
them
there.
before finishing the season at home against the Browns. Now, this team, not a great running team last year. That's for sure. Oh, they also got Chase Brown out of Illinois. That's another solid pickup. I was about to say looking at their run game. But everything else they're top 6, top 7 in. They scored 26.1 points per game, 7th most in the league. They were 265 passing yards a game, which is 5th most in the league, and only allowed 20 points per game, which was 6th most in the league. So really good across the board, except for rushing, which they were 29th in the league. So definitely got to get that running game up. But 11.5. Do you think this team can get to 12 wins again? I think they were 13 last year. No, they were 12 last year.
Yeah,
Or they could have been 13 because they were part of that game that got canceled.
but yeah, I don't see why they can't get to 12. I mean, this is a loaded team, up and down the roster. You look at the Bengals. You mentioned their draft class, of which personally I absolutely love their draft
That's a
class.
great class.
They did a fantastic job. I mean, they don't really need receivers, but Charlie Jones will be a fine, depth piece for them behind all the different nice receivers of which they have. They actually signed Irv Smith from the Vikings. He's now their tight end. Really young guy out of Minnesota. Big time potential there. Really like that signing for him. But on defense, Miles Murphy will really be a nice pickup for him. He can slot in that edge rushing rotation. You look at the other defenders of which they have. They did a great job with getting both DJ Turner and Jordan Battle. Huge additions in the secondary, of which kind of desperately needs it, since Eli Apple was an absolute joke. Um, he has become the butt of the NFL at this point. But I love what the Bengals did. They had some needs and they aggressively attacked them. And going and also getting Chase Brown. I love Chase Brown. That's a fantastic running back. They actually even have Chris Evans too. I forgot about that. But
Really? That's like bringing up all the names that I forgot about.
yeah, but I mean Joe Mixon, obviously, there's like I think he has some off-field issue that he's got. I don't remember what it is, but there
Was he the one? Was he the one who shot at kids in the neighborhood? I
might have
think he
been.
was the one who shot at kids in the neighborhood. Wasn't he also the one who beat up his girlfriend, and that's why he didn't get drafted forever? Joe Mixon is just.
An idiot.
I remember. I just know this guy. I just know this guy only as a problem.
Well,
Wow.
I don't. I mean, I don't remember what it was, but he has some sort of really ugly off-field problem of which he'll eventually probably get suspended for. Um, it's not. If you guys are wondering if it's the same one where you beat up some dude in a Vegas nightclub, that's Alvin Kamara. That is not Joe Mixon.
All
That is
these
Alvin
NFL stars
Kamara.
are just dumb,
Yeah, that's
dumb.
really dumb stuff. But Mixon did something. He might get suspended for it. He probably will get suspended for it. So you draft Chase Brown to kind of fill the hole, and maybe he, splits with Chris Evans. That's a nasty one too, right there. But I think the Bengals did very well. They still have a great receiving core. They got himself a really good tight end in Irv Smith. I think he could be very good. They keep trying, to revamp the offensive line, which they already got a really good offensive line by or especially gain Orlando Brown from the Chiefs. That's a really good pickup at tackle. And then the defense looking really good. I think this team is probably one of the favorites to come out of the AFC. And I don't
Oh
doubt that.
yeah.
I don't doubt that at all. I would not be shocked if
Why
they're the
would
one
you?
that comes out. Honestly,
Why would
I would
you?
almost consider them the favorite to come out of the AFC over the Chiefs. I would.
It's between one of those two. I mean the Ravens could always sneak up and do something. Maybe the Bills finally get it together, but Josh Allen's the Madden cover, so that means he's gonna suck this year.
Well, I don't know. The
Just
Madden curse didn't work for Mahomes, so
okay, but that's Mahomes. Mahomes transcends everything. Mahomes is just different. But yeah, I mean this
The
team.
Madden cover curse might finally be dead. You never know.
I mean, let's hope. But this team, I mean, this team is really, really good. So I would, it's like it's weird because I'm like, I even last year I'm like, this team's good. They're probably gonna compete, but the Chiefs are probably pretty good. And then they push the Chiefs in every single time and blow out the Bills, and I'm like, oh, okay, this team is just never leaving. This team's just never leaving. They're gonna be here for a while,
Yeah,
which is good.
Cincinnati's good. Bengals really good team. I'm expecting. I mean, and I think everyone else is too. I'm expecting a lot out of Cincinnati.
Yeah. Everybody is. I mean, why wouldn't you? Especially with all the success they've had recently.
For sure. With the insane receiving core, having a MVP candidate probably, and Joe Burrow. Overall, I mean, there's just not a place you can go wrong with Cincinnati.
No, you absolutely can't. It's just they're gonna just roll through everything again. I mean, especially like they have some easy teams on their schedule. Again, I mean, you have the Cardinals. If you have the Cardinals on your schedule, just
Well,
take the
you can check that off, I
win
think,
right there.
any
That's all
day
you
as
need.
an easy win. Just okay, we're done. Moving on.
I still can't.
Easy
When we get to the when we get to the NFC West, I mean, they have a win total of 5.5. That's that's absolutely stupid. No, they should not have a win total. I might bet the under. I'm gonna text Dylan and tell him. I'm gonna call. I'm gonna call Dylan and tell him. He's got to place his bet. Actually, I'm gonna do that right now. I'm gonna do that right now. I gotta take this call. I gotta call him now. Actually, I've gotten him into bet. Well, he's gotten himself into betting, but this is like the lock of the century. All right, you continue. I don't have any much more to say about the Bengals.
Yeah, but overall, I really like the Bengals to win the AFC. They got all the talent in the world. And really, when you think about, what's their competition in the AFC North, I mean, all it really is the Baltimore Ravens. But you look at the schedule, I mean, you wonder, well, what are games they could possibly lose? This stretch right here, specifically, probably with Seattle, San Fran, Buffalo, all in a row, is pretty brutal. Yes, I involve my Seattle Seahawks. Yes, get over it. I know a lot of people get irritated by that, but um, I think that's going to be a big part of their season right there with San Fran, Buffalo, back-to-back weeks is pretty brutal, especially with that one being at San Fran, of which they're actually favored in, which is pretty insane. And then the Bills at home. I think that those are all going to be very tough games. Seattle, I think they'll probably beat, but looking at the schedule, I would likely put this team at about, 14-3, I would say probably. Maybe 15-2, but I'd probably go on the safer side and say 14-3. But really, the Bengals, devastating team. In terms of the rest of the AFC North, the Ravens, I think, are also, of course, a very good team. But overall, this Bengals team is fantastic, and they're gonna make sure to do anything and everything they possibly can to keep themselves on top of the totem pole. But yeah, Cincinnati,
I
terrifying.
ca- I called him and I told him, and he went 5.5. I'm betting my whole paycheck on the under. he's like
uh,
he's like everyone else, like the Texans I can see, the Buccaneers I can see, but he's like 5.5 on the Cardinals. Why would I not bet my whole paycheck on that? Okay. All right. Now what would it take for the Bengals to win the Super Bowl? I don't really think we have to make much of a case here. They just, play well. Don't throw a stupid slant route or whatever they did. I forgot what they did on fourth down against the Rams. It was some stupid play that
you
I was
mean
like, "What are you doing?"
are you talking about
In the
Chiefs
Super Bowl.
or in the Super
No,
Bowl?
no, no, the
Well, they
Bengals.
just
The
did a
Bengals.
dumb. They just knocked Mahomes when he was well out of bounds for no apparent reason late in that game.
Yeah, there was
So
that one, and
just
then
quit
what
with
was the
the
one?
boneheaded
He,
moves.
there was the boneheaded call in 2021 that ended the Super Bowl too. It was like some really bad offensive play. Nothing might not be as bad as Kirk Cousins throwing a 3-yard check down on 4th and 7 with the game on the line. three
What in
yard
the
check
world they
down.
were thinking with that, I
Three
have
yard check
no
down pass.
idea.
Or a throwback when Dan Quinn kicked a field goal when they were on the 1-yard line. on 4th and
You know,
1.
if we're doing a competition for what's the worst play, we're still not going to get anywhere near the Dallas Cowboys against San Fran the past 2 years. If
I was
those two
about to
meet
say
each
which one.
other, if those two meet each other again in the playoffs this year, I really wonder what boneheaded offensive play call they come up with to end that game.
I was about to say I don't know which one is worse. I know which one I enjoyed more. I enjoyed watching Ezekiel Elliott get absolutely pummeled. But I also liked watching Dak Prescott run a
A
QB slide.
QB run, and with no timeouts left, late in the fourth, just
That was
with both of those plays, it's like, what are you thinking? You know, I get it. Like for the first game, if you had a timeout and you are willing to use it, and you're willing to call a play like that and then use it immediately after, yeah, okay. They don't got any timeouts. Like that doesn't make any
literally.
sense unless you go out of bounds. You're not getting out of bounds. So it's just why? And then the last one, and then this past year is like, yeah, what's that going to accomplish? What's putting your running back at center going to accomplish? Like seriously, what is that going to do? Just, and now he's the Chargers offensive coordinator.
All right, well that I think about wraps up the AFC North. This was always a pleasure. But that's Mitch. I'm Jacob. I don't know which division we're doing next, but I think Calvin's going to be joining us here. So we'll catch you guys in the next video, hopefully with 3 of us.
Adios,
Peace.
everybody.